Hello, everybody. This is a podcast about learning. My name is Mr. Warden. My job is to facilitate learning. My learner today is Bubba Lindbloom.
Howdy.
And he's going to talk to us about being a musician, talking about music, learning music, and things like that. This podcast is a vehicle for us, Rediscover Experience, to discuss learning conceptually and talk about why it is good. And so by talking to many different kinds of people about many different kinds of learning, we can demonstrate how other people have learned, and hopefully that might inspire you to do some learning as well. Mm-hmm. All right. Bubba Lindbloom, how are you?
I'm feeling great. I stayed out a little late last night, so had a little bit to drink, but I'm feeling good. It's
right.
Beautiful day today.
Okay. So I was thinking a lot about how I was going to begin this interview. I was thinking a lot about what kind of questions I'm going to ask. Because we had Scotty on last week, and he is a musician, and I wanted to ask different questions, talk about some different things.
Sure.
So my question to you, this might be a hard question right off the get. What is the best thing to you about being able to play music? Because it's a good power. It's a good power to have. What is the best thing about playing music for you?
Well, I tell you, almost every day, I give thanks that I figured out how to play guitar and sing, and I don't know what I would do without it at this point. But the best thing about being able to play music, it's a really good outlet for my creativity and even just getting emotions out that I need to get out. That, if I have a hard time being angry or crying, it's a good way for me to push it all into music. And
yeah, how would you describe that style? How would you describe what you play?
Well, I mean, if I really think about it, I feel like a lot of my songs are sad. I feel like that's when I get into my best writing mode and create stuff that I actually like to perform and release. Sad songs also is just something that I like.
Yeah,
and so I like that emotion that it draws out of you. There's something weird about that.
That's great. That's awesome. And learning music from, I imagine, a younger age. Tell us about that. Tell us about where you come from and where you're going, and basically what brings you here to the couch.
Sure. Suburb of Garland. I'm sure you're aware of it, right? Right outside of Dallas. And I just, I grew up in South Garland, and the way that I was introduced to music is a few streets over, there was a couple kids who were my age. They were playing, you could hear them in their garage band. You could hear them, and I was always
nice.
So I was like, man, that sounds fun. I would like to be able to do that. And lo and behold, probably 6 weeks later, their bass player was grounded for making bad grades in school or something, and he couldn't play with them anymore. So they set me up with a bass guitar, and it's kind of where it all started. Bass, if you know, it's a little easier to get going on the bass. It's
less strings.
It's harder to impress people on the bass.
Well,
but yeah, so just, root notes, playing Green Day covers.
Yeah, but doing it, to learn it, you did it.
That's pretty much it. I mean, what we're going to talk about, if we're talking about learning, we're going to talk about me being self-taught and almost being a little arrogant and thinking that, like, I can figure this out myself. I know better now that I'm 42 years old now. So I know better now that getting help from somebody who knows what they're talking about could have cut out, a couple years of my learning. Well,
what you're talking about is making mistakes, and there's a lot of, learning is about making mistakes.
Very true. Very, very true.
And if you have certain formal learning, like formal tutoring and formal training and things like that, you can cut out some of the mistakes. But I think a lot of the learning comes from the mistakes.
Absolutely. Yeah, believe me, I've learned that a lot. So, yeah. But there are a lot of technique things that could have made me a lot better, a lot faster.
Exactly.
With some teaching. But like I said, I was always just kind of arrogant. I kind of stayed to myself when it came to that. And so self-taught is the way that I went.
So bass, and then graduated from there to?
Bass, and then guitar. I've always been a little bit of a singer. I've really dove into that a lot more over the last 10 years, the singing side of things, and I really enjoy it. Still learning.
Yeah, still exactly. Still learning. I imagine every time you go up there on stage, you're. Well, one of the main things that I wanted to ask you about was like when do you decide to mix things up? When you go up on stage, and you're like, I'm going to play a little bit differently this time. I'm going to try this other things. Do you find yourself doing those things?
It's so easy when you're by yourself and you're not recording. You're just in your element, in your zone, in your home, in your safe space. And everything's just so beautiful. As soon as you push record or as soon as you get on stage, things completely change.
Yeah, up here it feels good.
Exactly. And so you have to kind of separate all that. You have to not think about the recording or the audience or whatever in order to really get into it and feel it and play something, just total improv. That's a hard place to get to, blocking everything out and just doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Speaking of improv, do you feel like you're learning up to that point? Do you feel like you can go out there and play anything? Do you feel powerful?
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
With basic chords. I couldn't go out and play Mozart,
Sure.
But if somebody requests a song, if I know the song, there's a good chance that
that's
I can
awesome.
just figure it out right there on the spot.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really great power to have.
It just came to me probably in the last 5 years.
Okay.
It just started to click, and that's the really cool thing about it. And when people ask me about how do you learn how to play guitar, I tell them for me, it's the breakthroughs. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it enough to play until I hit that next breakthrough, and I'm like, oh, and it just opens up this whole new area that I just didn't even think about before.
Yeah.
And so that just keeps me going.
Those are those neural pathways being connected in the brain.
Yeah. And it's hard to explain that. And I'm glad you said that, because it's hard to explain that feeling of something happening up here.
That aha.
Yeah.
Bubba, can you give us an example of one of those breakthroughs?
No. You just called me some. No, I'm just joking. Let's see. I mean, something as small as just like learning how to do a press on. That's where you play an open string, and then you, without strumming, you just press. Something as small as that can be incorporated in so many different songs. Just like coming across that as a kid and being like, oh, that's how that's done. I actually made my guitar sound like it sounds in that song that's so famous.
Yeah. Do you have any songs that you play a lot? Do you have any songs that inspire you that you're like, I want to learn how to play this because I want it to sound like they sound?
I'm a little bit. I don't. This is hard to explain too.
No, please.
So much music over the last 20 years, just in the studio, recording constantly, hearing each song 1,000 times before you close it out and release it, and then by the time you release it, you're just like, I don't even want to really like hear this song anymore.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm saying that is because of that, I actually haven't been listening to a whole lot of other people's music.
Yeah.
I'll start a playlist whenever I'm cleaning or something like that, but that's kind of a weird thing that I've gone through is doing so much music that I've kind of slowed down on listening to popular music or even my favorite bands.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, definitely achieving the same sound as Green Day or Lynyrd Skynyrd or and just realizing that, oh, I can do that. That seemed impossible to me.
Yeah.
A year ago, and here we are.
Yeah, and that probably required a lot of extra learning. I mean, even not only playing the notes, but like getting the tone to be right and getting the turning the knobs the right way.
Absolutely, and that's a never-ending battle because there's endless pedals that you can put all together. And this is a phaser, and this is an echo, and you can do a phaser echo together. I mean, it's just there's so much, so it's hard to achieve some sounds sometimes. But they'll even make like a Lynyrd Skynyrd Sweet Home Alabama pedal.
Okay.
These days, so it's just easy.
Is what makes it sound like that sounds.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So it's just
who knows?
Microchips.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got the sound right. They just set it up inside the pedal, and I don't know
let it go.
I don't know the mechanics or the ins and outs of it, but
thinking about music as career. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about specifically what it feels like to have to play and have to pay rent as well.
Sure. Well, Fortunately, I've actually never been in that situation.
Okay.
Even at some of our best times, it was definitely not enough income to live a comfortable, life. So I've always had a job. I've always
Okay.
had a backup plan. So I wanted to keep it like that. I wanted to try to stay away from making it a job and just do it because I love it.
Okay.
Because it can really ruin it for me if it gets too serious or if it's something that I have to do.
Yeah, I absolutely see that.
Yeah. So I've never gone full time. I maybe could have for a little bit, but it wouldn't have been an extravagant or comfortable situation for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And so what kind of jobs do you do? If we go away from music just for a second, we'll come back to it.
Sure. Well, when I first started playing music and we were playing all the time, I got something that was flexible with schedule. So I was just a server at restaurants for a long time. I finally just fell into data center work.
Okay.
I was a data center engineer for about 12 years, and which is really cool. It's not my passion. I'm definitely not I wouldn't call myself a computer guy, but that paid the bills nicely. And I got out of that to come back and help the family business, which is a carpet cleaning business.
Okay.
So that's actually what I'm doing now.
So lots of different stuff.
Lots of different stuff. Yeah. And I'm the best at all of them. Don't you forget that.
So when we think about learning and we think about learning music and we think about learning, what are some next steps in your mind? What are some things that come to you that are like, this is what I want to do next. This is my next breakthrough.
So as far as learning, I know for a fact and from experience that practice is everything. And if you ask any guitar player, any musician, practice is just the most important thing. I'm pushing myself to just play as much as possible. Still learning. And the cool thing is now is that we have YouTube for just about anything that you want to learn.
Yeah.
I definitely would like to hone in on my singing skills. I've got a lot to learn there, and I'm aware of it. And which is a really cool thing too, is becoming aware that there's so much more. I know a lot of singers who think that they're at the top, and they're just not.
Right.
Because it takes that awareness to realize, oh, I could be better. I don't know as much as I thought I did.
Yeah, and that's huge. When we talk about, we were talking about this with Ryan a couple of podcasts ago. We're talking about we utilize lists of knows and need to knows in project-based learning. Specifically, here's all the things we know. Here's all the things we need to know. Sometimes there's things that you don't know.
Right. Exactly. That's huge.
And I feel like singing is to me, from somebody out here, singing is this very esoteric thing that's like, how do you, because like on a guitar, you can see the strings and you can see how to vibrate the strings, and that makes the sound. But with singing, it seems so foreign. It seems so difficult to nail down.
I've been singing my whole life. I mean, when I was a young child, my sister was always singing, so we'd sing together all the time. Never really thought about it. I never planned when I was a kid. I never really planned on being a singer, but it just kind of happened. And now that I'm a little older and I'm doing a lot more home recordings and stuff like that, I've really been able to practice a lot, and it's enjoyable. As far as knowing how all that works, that's just something I still don't know.
Sure, but you can feel it. I imagine there's certain things that you feel that I don't necessarily feel.
Oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, from an experiential basis.
Yeah,
like
and then just hearing is also
being able to listen,
a big part of it too. A lot of people, when they're singing with a song, they can hit it. It's easy because they hear the vocals and they can match it. But it's way different when you take the vocals out. It's kind of like you're all on your own.
Well, we sound different to ourselves.
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And being able to get in that mindset of being able to hear yourself the way that other people hear you, that's huge.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people hate the way that they sound.
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Of course, I've heard myself on camera a lot.
Yeah, it took some getting used to for sure, but you just gotta have to just trust it.
Yeah, so that's kind of your big next. So your next big thing is like working on your singing, working on more like that.
Working on singing through just recording. We're actually my band Loyal Sally. We're actually putting out a full length album.
Yeah.
These days, it's more common practice to do just singles with a video attached because attention span right now.
That's why Spotify works. And
Exactly. And if you watch videos, I mean, the main way that people are getting their music now is through social media. And these clips are 15 seconds long, and it's the best part of the song.
you got to have the best 15 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, we're getting a little older. We're not pushing. We're not going to try to be rock stars or anything like we used to want to be. And so it's just all about just getting our ideas and our creativity out and recorded, and just for our kids, and our family members and stuff like that.
Can you tell us more about this album?
Sure. We're trying to do 13 songs. We're gonna self-record. We've always hired and outsourced recording and mixing and stuff, but we really want to take our time on it this time, because if you hire, that's a lot of money that we just don't have.
Sure.
So we're gonna self-record this time and really take our time on it and try to just put out the best quality.
Is there learning in that for you? Have you guys done this before?
I've been recording since I was 15, and so I'm just getting better and better and better. It's another thing that I was self-taught at, so there's still probably a lot of stuff that I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I can put out a pretty good quality product.
Nice.
I think we're going to record it and then maybe pay somebody to mix and master it.
Okay.
So we'll just get all the tracks organized and send them out.
Nice. And Loyal Sally, can you tell us more about how that formed and how that formed?
Sure. So like I said, when I was younger, there were some kids, a couple of streets over playing some music. Well, the kid who lived there, his name is Michael Morgan. He's a really good friend of mine. So at that point on, we were just super good friends. We went through elementary school, middle school, high school together, trading music all the time, and we played music all the way through middle school, and then in high school we started to think about like getting out and playing. So we formed a band with me and him and a couple other guys, and kind of has how it all started. I mean, ever since I've been playing music, I've been playing with Michael.
Okay.
So we've had a good 25-year run of being in bands together. Most recently, Loyal Sally. So it's me and him, another guy named Jeremy, and another guy named Tuna. It's just a 4-piece.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's kind of it. We started playing. Our first show was at a CC's Pizza.
Okay.
We're 15 years old. And that same night, we played at a skating rink. It was like New Year's Eve. And CC's was awful. The skating rink was amazing.
Fair enough.
Wanted to quit after CC's. Like that was the most embarrassing thing I've ever been through. Everybody was gone. Like we were playing punk rock music.
Right.
Emptied the place out. We were perceived a lot better at the skating rink.
Awesome. That's hilarious. Bubba, one of the things that I talked with Scotty about last week was I talked about specifically about flow state, and I asked him about how he feels when he's on stage. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, so I don't know the word flow state.
Sure. When we do some really robust learning, when we're in part of a really robust experience, oftentimes all the rest of sensory input goes away, and we're just focused on this one singular thing. And that thing is what we call flow state.
Okay.
Where we are creating and doing and we are acting.
Sure. So I don't feel like I'm doing a whole lot of learning on stage. I'm more just going through training and just trying to be the coolest, best musician that I can be on stage, and just going into my training. There's only been a few times where I can really say that I've had like an out of body experience. Like I really just focus on myself and what I'm doing rather than like what everybody else is thinking. And that's an incredible place to be.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot. It took a lot to get there. I'm not sure if that's something that somebody would teach you. Probably is. I know that I could probably teach somebody now. Like I have a daughter who's a musician, and I could explain that to her and try to work her up to that. But yeah, being on stage, it can be scary. A lot of it is just acting like you're not a little nervous. Put yourself out there like that. I'm curious to see what Scotty said.
Well, that podcast will come out tomorrow.
Okay.
Generally speaking, when we're talking about flow state, like it's those moments in your life in which you lose sense of time.
Okay.
It's when a moment is either expanded and it seems like a few minutes, like a song feels like it lasts for hours.
Sure.
Or those moments in which time is contracted, where you are so involved in something that you look up and several hours have passed. You don't know where that time is gone.
Okay.
That's our flow state.
Gotcha.
The state of mind.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I guess I experience that most when I'm at home by myself.
Okay.
Recording. I really get vulnerable with myself when I'm recording. Mm-hmm. It's actually kind of embarrassing. Sometimes I'll be going through songs with some of my mates, and I'll come across one that I'm just like, oh, I can't let them hear that. That's a little too personal, I could even be crying. You just never know. So that's kind of funny, though, to think about. But I think flow state, in the way that you're describing it, I would probably say I feel that most when I'm at home recording.
Okay.
A couple drinks, maybe a little bit of smoke,
Nice. Absolutely. Speaking of being at home and speaking of flow state, do you have other hobbies? Do you have other things that you do that you focus on?
I'd consider myself quite the outdoorsman.
Okay.
I love fishing, kayaking, hiking, just anything with a river. I love Arkansas. I love the Ozark Mountains. So, yeah.
Cool. And have you ever felt anything like that, like a flow state at those times? Because when I'm kayaking,
Absolutely.
You have one objective: don't fall in.
Yeah.
that's where I'm at, and so really, I lose a lot of the worries and anxieties that I have when I'm on the water.
Yeah, yeah. I actually probably say this once a month, but one of the best memories that I have of my entire life is being miles away from civilization on a river. It's 106 degrees. I'm just wearing tiny little shorts, fishing. I'm sweating from head to toe, and I just feel great.
Yeah.
Like the sun is beating down on me, but like I'm not burning or anything. That's the best. And I definitely have gone, a whole day without realizing.
And that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Because whenever you get to that point, whenever you get to that kind of experience, that's living. Mm-hmm. That's real life. The rest of this, whatever. The real living is when you aren't even aware that you're alive. You're just doing and acting.
Right.
That's really incredible.
Yeah, and then brings up hindsight. It's kind of like it's hard to enjoy those moments, obviously in the moment, but it's good stuff, man. Kayaking, woo!
Yeah,
I'm ready for it to get warm again.
Yeah, me too. It's cold. It's cold.
Yeah.
So it's at this point in the show that we would normally read some emails, but this is only our third episode, and only one episode's been released so far, so we don't have any emails. But I've got some examples of what kinds of emails we're looking for. So if you are at home and you want to talk about learning or you want to write about learning, I've got some example questions here. For example, I'm building a birdhouse and I'm not certain how to proceed. That might be a good question you can ask. I'm learning to embroider and it's going well. What kinds of projects can I do? Those are great questions you can ask. I want to do some learning, but I'm not certain of a path, or I'm not certain how to begin, or I'm not certain how to continue. Those are great questions to ask. And I'm about to undertake a project and need some encouragement. We can also provide that, because we want to encourage people to learn. I imagine you'd like to encourage people to learn as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a child, and that's my hope for her. Is she wants to get as much knowledge that she can while she's here.
Absolutely, and that's our hope for anybody. That's our hope for all people, is to be able to inspire them to learn as many new and interesting things as they can, because I think that's what makes life good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Bubba, thank you for being here. Thank you for talking with us.
Thank you for having me. I love the concept. I appreciate you guys very much. And yeah, I'd like to come back again at some point.
Yeah, and that's our goal, is to have people back so we can see what learning have you done since the last time we saw you.
Well, good luck.
And then, and that's our hope is to see how people do, see how people live, and see how people see how people seek truth and seek learning.
Yeah, that's cool. Love it.
All right. Well, bye for now.
Thank you.